but we all of us took chocolate milk, and some of them had little tiny fancy aluminum containers, and we had glass containers for our chocolate milk. Nearly everybody took some kind of milk or chocolate milk. Chocolate milk was the most favorite. And let's see, something popped into my mind at that time.
Well, first, do you remember the teacher's name?
Oh, I remember all my teachers' names.
So why don't we say the teachers' names in case their families are still in Iowa?
Miss Sturtz was my first teacher.
Sturtz?
Sturtz, S-T-U-R-T-Z.
Okay.
I was wildly in love with Miss Sturtz, and Miss Ellers, and Miss Zimmer, who was my favorite teacher of all time. We should talk about Miss Zimmer.
Okay.
Miss Zimmer, Miss Axtell. Did I say Miss Ellers?
Yes.
I think that's all they had.
Okay.
Those
you
were.
Still remember them all these years?
Oh yeah, and then the Garrison School. In first grade, I had Miss Wyman. In second and first and second grade, I had Miss Wyman. In third and fourth, I had Miss Buffington. In fifth and sixth, I had Miss Boyer. In seventh, I had Mr. Elmo Urice, and then Bernard McElrath, who all us girls fell in love with. He's our 8th grade teacher.
How did you get some men in the mix? I thought it was mostly...
That was town school.
And
that was Garrison School. No males, no male teachers in Monroe at that time. And while we're at it, this flashed in my mind, and I'd like to put it out, and that is when my mother was teaching, she got about $32 a month, and when I called my friend Nadine Bolt, who started to teach rural school in Iowa in 1942, and she made $125 a month teaching rural school. And now that's up in the Mount Auburn region, and Mount Auburn is still in Benton County. But then she got a dollar extra for every student over the number of 10. So she had 12 students, so that meant she got $127 a month. And that's kind of important, I think, now.
It's hard for me to know in dollars what that meant during Depression time.
Yes.
You know, what the equivalent would be. Now, your mother made...
Well, no, and I'm not sure that I can tell you, except that you could buy what we called weenies, what we now call frankfurters. We got 12 cents a dozen, and we paid 10 cents a loaf for a big loaf of bread, of Wonder Bread. That cost 10 cents. And then there was a mini 5-cent loaf, as I recall.
What year are we talking about?
Now we're talking about 32, 1932 probably. And so I remember that in 1938, 1940, I bought a sweater for 80 cents. A really pretty sweater. It was pink and white and looked nice on me.
Like a woolen?
Yes, it was kind of like a wool, but it was fuzzy.
Right.
And it was long wool, and I remember paying 80 cents for that. And
okay, but let's bring it back.
Okay,
let's go back to school. Let's go back to school. We're not in the schoolhouse yet. We've played games. We've carried our lunch.
Yes.
We've talked about some of the things. Maybe we didn't talk about. Are you carrying your books, or are all the books in the building?
Generally, we didn't take more than one book home. Okay. There was very little homework. Just some, and only when. The thing is that all my teachers had lots of programs, and they were really productions. And we would learn poems. I remember that in our family, the 4 of us had 9 poems to present. And so you would learn your piece, we called it. You'd say your piece. And that was a poem that you learned. And
let me ask you a question about, we're off the topic a little bit. Public speaking apparently was very important back then in the one-room schoolhouse. They really wanted you to learn how to do that. I don't know if it's as important in school now. We have debate teams, but it's not really part of the curriculum. Why do you think that was? Why was that important?
I'll tell you one of the reasons it's important. Because you had no television, and we didn't even have a radio except one that the boys made, you know, with a battery and an antenna up on the roof, and you were so isolated, and you had to create your own fun. And when your relatives came to visit, you said your piece. You recited the poem that you learned in school that week. And each person would stand up and say, okay, now John, you say your piece. Or you would play. When I was about 12, I guess I was 13, and I got a guitar. I'd play the guitar for them. Or when we were in town with the piano, you'd play your simple little piano that you'd learned that. So that it was a part of entertainment, and it was the enjoyment. And like when, for instance, we went down to Aunt Belle's, everybody, we always would say poetry.
How would the teacher teach you? Would she tell you to memorize it?
Generally, she teaches they take it home and learn it at home tonight. And that was the homework. A lot of that was the homework. And of course, as I said, our family loved it, and we loved it, and so we did. I learned poems. I still remember. I can't get over the number of poems that I still remember. I was just looking in this book, and there's a book. Hats off! Along the street there comes a blur of bugles, a ruffle of drums, a flash of color beneath the sky. Hats off! The flag is passing by. You know, and it's in that book. I remember it.
Now, did you have assemblies or performances at school?
Well, yes, those were the programs. Let me explain the programs, because they're very important. That brought the community together. The programs. We had a Halloween program, and we had a Thanksgiving program, we had a Christmas program, and I don't know whether they had, I'm sure they had an Easter program, but see, I never, ever went to country school in the spring.
Right.
So I missed all of that in there. But this brought the community together, and we had box socials. Nearly all of these were box socials, and what we would do is each family would decorate a box, and the housewife would make wonderful pies, always great fried chicken, and or maybe pork tenderloins, whatever, something like that. Potato salad, macaroni salad, fresh rolls that she would bake. They would be yeast rolls that she would bake, and they'd bring butter, they'd make coffee. And then the farmer, it's supposed to be kept a secret. Of course, nearly every housewife told her husband, now you bid on this one because this has got my stuff in it. But the young men and the young ladies, the young men would always think they'd want to bid on their girlfriends. And that was kind of a secret.
So you'd bid on this meal,
yeah,
and then you'd eat the meal with the person?
With the person who purchased, and the highest bidder.
And was the money a fundraiser?
The money was a fundraiser, and we paid the piano tuner with that money. We bought, I think they bought coal with that money.
Right.
We bought a phonograph, and of all things, let me tell you this, we bought a hectograph.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what a hectograph is. A hectograph is about a 24-inch long box, and it's only about 8 inches high. And on that, and it's about 12 inches in width. And it has a layer, it has an open face, and it has a layer of a gelatinous material on it. And the teacher would take a crayon of some sort, and I can't remember, she must have dipped it in something, to draw pictures or make up a test. and he would put this on a sheet of paper, then he would lay it on the hectograph, and you could pull, say, 10 copies from that.
Oh, it was like an early photocopier.
Yeah.
or a Xerox machine, or a mimeograph.
It's
a hectograph.
A hectograph. And it was the forerunner, and every once in a while the thing would stick and you'd pull out a little blob of the jelly, and you'd have to pat it down.
So was this for your assignments or for illustrations?
This was for many things, assignments, and if we had songs we had to learn, she would do the songs on it. But most of all, she would let us draw pictures.
Oh, that must have been exciting.
And I was a pretty good artist in those days. And if you got your work done, then you could draw pictures, and then...
So what would you draw? What kind of pictures?
I remember, I drew pictures of undersea. I wonder why I did that, I don't know.
Because you weren't near a beach or anything.
No, but I drew pictures of undersea and starfish and ducks swimming on the water. I especially love ducks, because then, you see what you did, you just would outline this, and then you would give them to people and take them to the desk and color them.
Oh, that's great.
And it would occupy you for about an hour.
That's great.
You know, it was a.
I've never heard of a hectograph before. I bet you the museum probably has one.
You know, I don't think the museum at the rural school at in northern Iowa has a hectograph. That's something we should tell Sue.
Right.
To look for a hectograph.
So you had a lot of technology in that. You had a Victrola.
We had a Victrola.
Tell people. I know what a Victrola is, but maybe younger people don't.
It's a phonograph.
But describe what it looked like.
It's about 18 inches by 18. It's portable.
Right.
18 inches by 18 inches by about 10 inches, and it had an arm with a needle in it, and it had a lid to cover this. Then when you want to use it, you pull the lid back, had 2 hinges here, and then you would put I think those were 45.
Right. Or maybe there were the bigger ones. I don't remember them.
My memory is that they must have been the 45 revolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would gently put the needle, and it had a little magnaphone in it, and it would sing, and it would play. And I remember especially in music class, we used that in music class.
So what did you listen to? What kind of music did you
Madame
listen to?
Schumann-Heine playing Hear the Gentle Lark.
Madame Schumann. Who was Madame Schumann-Heine?
Everybody then knew she was a singer that everybody was supposed to know, and she was held up as a model.
Was she an American singer or a German singer or?
I think German.
And it was "Oh Hear the Gentle."
Oh, hear the gentle lark. And we were supposed to mimic her, of course.
Wow.
And then we had when this Fullerton book came out, which was in 1932, this book all 4 of us used, and you could see it, but I'm so happy I still have it. Came out in 1932. And
okay, I'm just gonna read it. It is a 1-book course in elementary music and selected songs for schools by Charles Fullerton. There's a harp on the cover, or a lyre, or a lyre, I don't know how to say it. And so you still own this. It says Mildred L. Armstrong, and 1924, and then it says John Armstrong. That was your brother?
Yeah,
Francis and John Armstrong.
Yeah, Francis is Jack.
Okay.
Those are my 2 older brothers.
And oh my goodness. Okay, and it's Cedar Falls, Iowa, February 3rd, 1931. And I'm just going to read can I read the first paragraph just so we have it on here? The part that imitation plays in the early education of the child has been undervalued by too many teachers. The 5-year-old child that comes to school his first day with a working vocabulary of, say, 1,000 words, nearly all of which he has learned unaided by imitation, has made an astonishing record in contrast with the results of the calculating, analytical procedure by which teachers use to hamper him as soon as he's arrived in the school. It is natural for a child to learn music by imitation as to learn language by imitation, but generally the opportunities for learning music have not been so favorable at home. The result is that the majority of children learn to do their first accurate singing in school. That's pretty neat. And,
It is.
that is 1931.
And he wanted to make Iowa the singingest school in the nation. I remember that quote. I'm not sure where I heard it, but I do remember that saying that Fullerton wanted to make that. And this book has just got the greatest songs in it, like Genevieve, you know, and Beside the Linden Tree. It has all those great old songs.
Well, you know, now we're in 2011 as we speak here, and there's a lot of arguments for music education in the schools.
Oh, you know, I think
it's interesting that you did it back.
Yes.
It's interesting that you did it back then.
Yeah. And we had a piano. We had an upright piano. Don't forget.
And who played? Who played?
The teacher. Teacher played the upright piano, and she also sang in there. And Miss Axtell had a very milky, thin voice that nearly everybody could sing better than she could. But she tried.
So one of the things I wanted to do, I mean, you have so many years of education that
Yes.
you could go each grade, but you said that Miss Zimmer was your favorite?
Miss Zimmer was by and far.
Okay, so let's talk about Miss Zimmer since she was your favorite.
Miss Sturts was my first teacher, and I fell in love with her first. And it was then that I decided I'd be a teacher.
Miss Dirks?
Miss Sturts.
Sturts, okay, she was your first teacher.
And she was my first, and I was crazy about her.
Her too.
And she taught for 2 years. And then I think she passed away of a burst appendix.
Oh, which people did back then.
Yes, they did back then.
All right, let's talk about Miss Zimmer first, and then we can go back to Miss Zimmer. What grade was that?
Miss Zimmer was about, I must have been 5th and 6th grade by then. I think 5th and 6th grade, because Miss Zimmer, first of all, she was beautiful. She had pink, like a china doll's skin, and blue eyes, and light brown hair. And she was sweet. She had a smile all of the time.
And what would a teacher wear? What would the teacher's attire be?
Teacher would just be a plain dress. And oh, there was something I should mention. Probably when we get to the winter stuff, girls were not permitted to wear pants or trousers in those days, and that's a big thing.
Right.
Remind me when we get to the winter dress. Well, that was wicked. Anyway.
And what kind of shoes? What kind of shoes would she wear?
She would wear sensible shoes.
What was a sensible shoe?
A sensible shoes is what we call social workers' shoes. A leather shoe that would have probably 6 eyes on top on each side and laced up, or she would have simply a slipper where the foot would be slipped into. But she never wore high-top shoes the way little children did. She never wore those. And she always looked pretty. She was always fresh. All the teachers were that.
So how would she start the day? Did she
she
show up to heat up the stove? Was that a thing?
Well, she got there before we did. That was a requirement, that the school be warm by the time we got there. So the teacher, you see, the teachers were not only teachers, they were nurses, they were janitors, they were arbiters, they were policemen. What else were they? Teachers were just all around. Everything was required of a teacher. It is unbelievable that a teacher would come to school at 8 in the morning, build her own fire with sticks, and sometimes they would have kerosene cobs to help them, and stay with 12 to 17 children all day, teaching anywhere from 5 to 8 grades all day. Eat lunch, come out to play at recess with us, eat lunch with, sit around when the weather was this halcyon Indian summer weather, come out and sit in a circle with us and eat lunch with us and chat with us and make jokes. Then come back in and teach all up till 4 o'clock, or we'd have an afternoon recess. And then after that, well, of course, our teachers all did the Tom Sawyer trick of tidying up the school at the end of the day, and especially Friday. Are you glad to help out? You look, we're happy to help out. And she, as I say, being a janitor was part of what she did. So she was everything.
Did you respect your teacher?
Oh my! Respect them. We thought they were we thought they were queens. And that was another thing. The punishment. I never saw a teacher whack a kid with a ruler.